made a point of having all genres of music represented, whether it's in Blueberry Hills Duck Room or the Delmar Hall at 800 capacity, or the Pageant concert nightclub, internationally known at 2,000 capacity. And it's important to me to have all those, whether it's rock, pop, jazz, blues, hip hop, Zydeco, country. Have
DJs.
them all come
I've
in.
seen DJs there too.
And DJs and comedians too. We do some comedy at times with various people.
Steve was just down there. I seen
Dave Chappelle, all sorts of other comedians have played there, and to great acclaim. And it's really fun seeing all this because you get different crowds, different nights. There was one.
Today, we had the pleasure to speak with the Duke of Delmar, Joe Edwards himself, today on the STL Bucket List Show. And as always, this podcast is recorded and distributed right out of here out of Half Coast Studios. Guys, if you have a podcast or you want to start a podcast, Google Half Coast Studios to get started. Welcome back to the STL Bucket List Show. I am your host, Lucas Farrell, and we are here with a very, very special guest today, the Duke of Delmar, Joe Edwards. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on and making the time in your busy schedule for us, man. We wanted to get into it and learn a little bit more about you. So you've been an entrepreneur for a while. You've started a bunch of amazing businesses. So give us a little backstory on you and where you choose to start your businesses at.
Well, I grew up in St. Louis. I've always lived here, except for my time at Duke University and a little Army time. But other than that, I've been here my whole life, and I love St. Louis. It's a great, great city. And it was really important to me to, especially when I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, when I was in my early 20s, to start a place that was heartfelt and I could use my record collection to program the jukebox. I have 30,045 RPM records and 12,078 RPMs. But it was, music has always been a big part of me, and St. Louis. St. Louis is the best music city in the country. So to do that, and I've been a collector all my life of pop culture items, and to open a place where I could display the pop culture items and program the jukebox and make music a big part of it, and then add the really good food and strong drinks, and that was the formula.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you said 30,000 records, and this is displayed in your home, also in your places of business and all that. This is just everywhere. I mean, how did you start collecting music like that?
Oh, just as a young kid, I just have, and most Americans and most people around the world love music,
right? And
so it was really important to me. And I don't know how it really started, where I kept building and building and building. But every time I'd hear a new song, oh my gosh, that is so great. Whether it's a Motown song or a blues song or a rock and roll song, like by Chuck Berry, the father of rock and roll, who grew up here, Albert King, one of the greatest blues guitarists, left-handed, upside down, that influenced Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix, from St. Louis area. Wow. Yeah. And I got to know all these guys and just appreciated their expertise and just their creativity. So that's where it started, and I just kept amassing these records to decide, well, I'm going to try to expose other people to all these songs. And I hand-typed every title strip on the jukebox. It was an old jukebox before internet, before
streaming
CDs,
services and all that stuff.
And typed the song title with the year it was popular and the name of the artist. And people really appreciated that. John Goodman, who's one of the greatest actors of our generation, he and his friends from Afton, Missouri, which is St. Louis in a way,
just a little
but
bit south,
pretty far south. Yeah. They would come in every couple of weeks and pump quarter after quarter after quarter in that jukebox and start playing air guitar after a few beverages and just have so much fun. It was so great. That's how I got to become good friends with him, and just because of that jukebox.
Yeah, the jukebox, and it's something so simple, but music brings people together. And you were mentioning Chuck Berry, and amazing. I mean, I listen to his stuff still to this day, and he actually, where I grew up in Winsville, he lived close to a house down in Forestdale, right by my high school back in Winsville. So Chuck Berry, and God rest his soul, and I mean his family. So tell me about some of the people that have went through the Delmar Loop, because me being 26 years old, I don't know the rich history of it as you do. So just tell me some fun stories about some people that came through and played there or even just partied there.
Well, a lot of people came in from around the world to see Chuck Berry perform in the Duck Room at Blueberry Hill, which is a 340 capacity room I created by digging down the basement and making the ceilings high and really good sound system and all. Joe Perry from Aerosmith and his wife Billy and their kids. We spent a whole afternoon with them and Chuck's family before Chuck performed, and then Joe Perry sat in with him. But for younger people, Ed Sheeran played the Duck Room at Blueberry Hill.
Really?
Ed Sheeran, the most listened to artist in the world right now, according to all the SoundScan stuff around the world at the moment. Even bigger than Taylor Swift, whom I like too and met her once. But she didn't play Blueberry Hill, but Ed Sheeran did. And it was so cool. And what impressed me about him, he was only, I don't know, maybe 21 years old at the time. And it was an afternoon concert, and all the young girls that were screaming laughed and all that. And so he and I were out in the parking lot in front of my 57 Buick Special just talking. And he was asking me, so what do you think about Donny Hathaway? And I was just awestruck, because I said, most St. Louisans don't know about Donny Hathaway, the great R&B singer and influencer for people generations to come. He was from St. Louis, and he's in the St. Louis Walk of Fame also. And I was really impressed with Ed Sheeran, because he was a student of music to even know that, or even think after a concert to ask me that question.
He's over the pond. This is a guy that's not even from America.
No, he is.
He studied music,
UK
and
area,
he knew that the influences from that. But yeah, Ed Sheeran is amazing. That's crazy that he played there. I never knew that. So this was back before many people knew him.
He was on the rise, but not the international superstar.
Now he's selling out Busch Stadium, 50,000 people. I mean, he's insane. He's wonderful too.
Yeah.
So he was
really
a good humble
really
guy too back then. And
very humble and very astute, and just fun to talk to.
Did you notice something in him that he was going to be a star, or do you have that vision for people?
When I watched that short concert in the Duck Room, I knew he would be. He, just with his small guitar, almost a ukulele type guitar, but anyway, he just mesmerized that audience, and he could talk to them well. He could play everything. He's a really good instrumental, craftsman. But his lyrics and the way he interacted with people, I mean, he didn't talk too long between songs. He talked enough to give the background and then get into it. And people were in awe. And I was also. I realized, man, oh man, this guy has it. He has it.
Wow, that's amazing. So Joe, you mentioned St. Louis and what it means to you. And since this is a St. Louis-based show, we like to ask people, what does St. Louis mean to you? I mean, what makes it special for you? What are the things that makes us unique?
I think we're a good, probably the greatest music city, I think, in my opinion. I mean, Nashville has its country, New Orleans has its jazz, Chicago has its blues. We've never been able to put a tag on St. Louis because we have all of those and more. We have gospel with Willie Mayford Smith, who's in the St. Louis Walk of Fame, who co-founded gospel music as we know it today with a man from Chicago. And it's just incredible, the music history of St. Louis. Ike and Tina Turner, Scott Joplin, the king of ragtime back in the early 1900s and all. And we have stars that, created, had unbelievable influence in all sorts of genres and all. It's whether it's jazz and all. So we never got that figured out. And the business people in St. Louis never really figured out, wow, we should really tout this as the music city of our country. I mean, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame probably should have been here, but you never know.
Do you think it was an identity? Like you said, we don't have that specific music identity, so it's easier for these other places like New Orleans is jazz, and they know it's jazz. You go there specifically to listen to jazz. So do you think it would help? Like, is that what you're trying to do with the Delmar Loop? Is give it an identity of like what type of people? But you have such diverse shows there, though.
I made a point of having all genres of music represented, whether it's in Blueberry Hills Duck Room, or the Delmar Hall at 800 capacity, or the Pageant concert nightclub, internationally known, at 2,000 capacity. And it's important to me to have all those, whether it's rock, pop, jazz, blues, hip-hop, Zydeco, country, have
DJs.
them all come
I've seen DJs there, too.
And DJs and comedians, too. We do some comedy at times with various people.
Steve-O was just down there. I see
Dave Chappelle, all sorts of other comedians have played there, and to great acclaim. And it's really fun seeing all this because you get different crowds, different nights. There was one weekend where Lil Bow Wow was there, and then this comedian who was an older white woman, played another couple of days later, and the crowds outside were very different.
Right.
But that's wonderful because that started bringing everybody together, and that's important to me. That the Delmar Loop is one of the most unique streets in all of the Midwest or all of the country, really. It's accepting and diverse in every possible way, in an organic, just a grassroots way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not somebody coming in with $10 billion and trying to create, this thing. This is the real thing. And all of St. Louis is not unified, but the Delmar Loop is. Everybody really is welcome here, young, old, every background, every color, every ethnicity, everybody.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. I'm proud of that. I'm proud. That's what makes St. Louis great. And that's expanding. Little by little, it's expanding.
I've noticed that development is huge, and it starts with people like you, Job, is because you have to care about your neighborhood. And I feel like even when I was there for a couple events, like I feel like everybody came in to support each and every business that opens. It's not like a jealousy thing. It's not like a competition thing. It's, oh, you do the same thing as me. Let's come together and make our street better. Because the Delmar Loop, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, how long is that strip with the exact Delmar Loop? I mean, is it 3-4, like the actual Delmar Loop itself?
It goes basically from Kingsland near University City Hall and the library, east on Delmar, and in a very meaningful, walkable way up to the old Wabash train station. Yeah. But it goes beyond that now, and it's going beyond that little by little, and in 5 or 10 years, it'll be all the way up to Bolivar, I think, and then south to Forest Park in the long run. But right now, that's the main walkable thing. I love the fact it's a livable, walkable community.
Yeah.
There are apartments affordable for people. They're fancy houses that are $1 million houses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go 3 blocks one way, you can afford an apartment. 3 blocks another way, you could spend $1 million on a house. And all those people interact and see each other's, issues in life, and that exposure to all strata of people's income and all that is really important to bring America together.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important to listen to people's stories because everybody comes from a different background and everybody has different experiences. So I kind of want to talk about music more because I feel like you're pretty versed with your music. So I wanted to ask you. I mean, I'm sure there's one person in your mind that you wanted to get down to one of your venues, but you couldn't. I mean, is there a person that dead or alive that you want to play at the Pageant or at the Duck Room? Is there one musician that comes to mind when you can think about that?
There's not just one.
Or a couple.
There are probably a dozen, but but the ones that I really, really, really hoped would play one of my places did play them. I mean, Chuck Berry, the first poet laureate of rock and roll, the father of rock and roll, the first person inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and his star is right in front of Blueberry Hills entrance, and his statue is right across the street, an 8-foot tall in motion statue.
Right by Fitz's right there.
Yeah, the great Harry Weber sculptor did with Chuck's blessing. And then Bob Dylan played the Pageant. And, in those early years of the Pageant, I built the Pageant building in the year 2000. And around 2003, I think it was, Bob Dylan started playing a couple of club-type size places instead of the big places. And he played there 3 nights. And I reintroduced Chuck Berry to him on the second night and went in his private tour bus. And that was so fun. Not only to meet him for the second time, to meet Bob Dylan for the second time, but to reintroduce those two.
Yeah.
And his English tour manager was a pretty stout guy with a good, heavy English accent.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out, this guy jokingly just railed on me. He said, "How the hell did you get in there? I've worked for Bob Dylan for 5 years, and I've never seen the interior of his. He is so private." Mm-hmm. The 3 days he was in St. Louis, nobody saw where he went or saw him at all.
He was a very private guy.
People put stand-ups around St. Louis as kind of fun media jokes, like, oh, there's a sighting in South St. Louis, there's a sighting in North St. Louis, but no one ever saw him. But that was pretty cool. And to see the interior of his private place. And the guy was joking, but he was really kind of frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And a lot of these musicians, I mean, they're so private, but what you do is they see your passion about this stuff. And that's why they include you in this. So Chuck Berry, I mean, tell us a little bit about him. I mean, he seems like back in his day, he was wild, but at the same time, like he really cared. Like he was a family focused guy, but at the same time, he did like to party too, a little bit too.
Yeah, it's one of those amazing friendships that I would never have predicted growing up. Like, oh yeah, you're going to become best friends of Chuck Berry, not just a friend or a acquaintance, because he was really closed as far as risking
circle.
because he had been messed over so much in his early career on tours with record companies and all those things through the years. He was very cautious, and it's just one of those things where the trust built because I always honored what I said I would do for him. He always honored what he said he would do for me. Our deal, the 209 concerts he played at Blueberry Hill, was all done on a handshake. And he normally never does anything on a handshake. It's all written down, and he's paid cash up front. And I always did that just to honor his early days when people messed with him in the South when he would tour in the 1950s and 60s. And he started demanding cash up front. And I thought, that's pretty cool. So I'm going to continue that tradition.
Give him an envelope.
Even though he didn't ask for that, but I always did.
He knew you were good for it.
It was just an envelope. It was. He would just put it in his pocket and he would count it later on.
Yeah, because he knew, and it was about the principle and building a friendship through that, and being in entrepreneurship, I'm sure you've had a lot of ups and downs, through your times, and like we just went through a pretty hard, pandemic. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you've pivoted and how that's affected you and what changes you're looking to make with especially live music. I mean, that was probably crazy when you got that call, like we can't do live music. You were shocked, I'm sure.
No, the pandemic was and still is difficult, but it really was difficult in March of 2020 when all of a sudden all the music venues had to shut down, period, not just reduce capacity and all that. And we really did have to really figure out what the heck is going to happen. And little by little, we did. I mean, just to have the Pageant dark, Delmar Hall dark, Blueberry Hills Duck Room dark, that was really tricky to say the least. And thank goodness for the companies that created the vaccines that over 10 or 15 years, it didn't happen overnight. All that research that had been done before really was the basis for that quick turnaround. So I'm appreciative of the scientists and the medical profession. But it was hard. And then how do you start up? We're one of the last industries to restart because of the proximity of people at a concert. You're close to each other, and mask or no mask, you're still close. And so now we're back up to full force, which is amazing. We've had a couple of sold-out shows of a couple thousand people each at the Pageant recently. And a 250,000 people through the year come through the Pageant to see concerts. That's how cool the Delmar Loop is, to have that kind of place where they really, really like playing there. They might be able to play a larger place, but, in St. Louis, that's where I want to play.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters, when he played there 3 times, if I remember correctly. And the second time, after the concert, he was sitting on the step leading up to the dressing room eating a burrito. Well, I don't know where he got the burrito, but anyway. And he said, Joe, this is the greatest concert club in the world. And I said, oh, wow, well, thank you. And he said, no, I really mean that. I used to love the 930 Club. I still love the 930 Club in Washington, D.C., but this layout that you've done, everything about this place is astounding. Yeah. And I said, well, thanks. But I really mean, I said, I believe you.
Yeah, you're like, I believe
you. But he was that emphatic at that time. So that was pretty cool to hear a guy like Dave Grohl compliment the Delmar Loop and the Pageant.
And they've played at crazy places all over the world.
Yes.
I mean, all over the world.
Yeah.
So that the Foo Fighters and that. So that's special. I mean, and that's what I feel like. I feel nostalgic when you go there. And like I said, I'm 26 years old, but you feel like you're stepping into a different world. And I feel like a lot of your places in the Delmar Loop, and the Delmar Loop in general, gives you that, I wouldn't say retro, but it gives you that neon signs, the art,
I love neon.
I love neon signs
ahead,
too. No, and that's what we were talking about before we got on the podcast, is like the neon signs. And I'm sure, that whole street at night, the pictures you see, just walking down there, having lunch. I mean, there's so much good food. So I want to kind of pivot into food. I mean, what's your go-to? I mean, what's your favorite thing to go when you're just, let's say it's just a night out, you got nothing to do that night, you just want to get food on the Delmar Loop. I mean, what's a couple of your favorite spots?
Well, I'm kind of biased because I have several of them. So I eat most of my meals at Blueberry Hill or the Peacock Diner. I love the pizzas at Peanut Bowl too, for that matter.
Yeah.
But Blueberry Hill has the most varied menu of any restaurant in St. Louis, I think. And we have like 6 or so different hamburgers, from vegan to the main one that everybody has voted on over the decades. But homemade soups are spectacular. Salad dressing, same way. We have some vegan dishes, some vegetarian dishes, a lot of really good side order type of items. There's a kids menu. there's something for everybody. That's what I've always tried to create, is just something where everybody feels welcome. So if a party of 8 people or a family reunion of 12 people want to go someplace, there's something on that menu for every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, let's not go there, let's go to someplace else because they don't have onion rings.
Right.
Well, we have good onion rings.
And it's affordable too. And it's affordable for the whole family, and that's important, especially when you're going out with a bunch of people like that. So that's amazing. I went there. I haven't sat in the spinny thing at that Peacock.
Oh, the carousel.
Yeah,
I
haven't sat at that. Every time I'm there, somebody's there already. Yep. And I need to rent. I seen you guys did something for Valentine's Day. I was thinking about snatching it up, but I'm gonna get it. I'll let you know
next year.
Next year. It doesn't have to be Valentine's Day. It just could be date night. But we love the milkshakes and obviously the burgers. So to wrap it up, we wanted to see what's coming up for you guys. I mean, I know the St. Louis Walk of Fame. There's a lot of stuff coming up. So give our followers, give our community an idea of what's coming up this year for the Delmar Loop in general.
Well, there'll be some outside events coming up, food events throughout the loop coming up this summer. The St. Louis Walk of Fame, I'm real excited about. I can't say who's getting in yet because I have to notify them first to give them the opportunity and not be surprised by it. But there's some huge people, huge names getting inducted in sports and military and acting and music, and all coming up that I think St. Louis will be very happy when they see them. And it's a free event. They can come, anybody can come and listen to them during their induction speeches and all. I want to always keep things casual where everybody's welcome. So that's pretty cool. The St. Louis Walk of Fame, when I formed that as a nonprofit in 1988, it was really important to me to have everybody represented. So I have 120 people on the selection committee, and 52% are women, 30 to 32% are African American, 2% Asian American, to find all those people that were forgotten in the history books written by other century people.
Right.
And just some darn cool people that, oh my gosh, I didn't know that person was from St. Louis, let alone what that person.
But they mean a lot to a certain community, so it's important. And I've seen that you've done that with the St. Louis Walk of Fame.
Yep.
And that's just amazing and inspiring. So this committee, you guys all nominate certain people, and then you come together and pick your select people.
Yeah, the nomination process I kept wide open. Anybody can nominate anybody all year long, but once a year, a smaller committee reduces the 250 nominees down to maybe 30, and then a ballot is sent out to the 120 people. That's a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
But it keeps it really fair. I only have one vote. It's not like Hollywood where you pay $80,000 and you get a star. This is all free, nonprofit. People contribute to it to make sure it is kept that way, and that way you get this broad spectrum of people. Oh gosh, it's just incredible. I mean, the list. I'm bringing you a St. Louis Walk of Fame book for your reference in the future.
Yeah,
but it's pretty amazing that the people that have come from St. Louis, and they had to have had an influence on a national level. So I get calls. Oh, my high school coach had a really good time, and did a lot. But that's not. There are other ways to honor those folks that from St. Louis and their own community, but this is the national influence.
Okay, I was wondering about that. So they have to have. So like if you were a local legend, maybe you have an honoree at your local, high school or whatever. Like you said, the coach. But
Correct.
These people have to have it's bigger than the city. But They
Right.
come back and there's a lot of people that I'm excited to hear this list. So we'll definitely post that and keep you guys posted when that comes out. So to end the podcast off, it is the STL bucket list show. So everybody has a bucket list thing. Is there anything left on your bucket list that you want to check off? I mean, is there any specific place you want to travel to or something you want to do in St. Louis too?
I'm not much of a traveler anymore because I love what's been created in the Loop so much. I very seldom get out of it. What was on my bucket list years ago was to meet Neil Armstrong,
Really?
the first man to walk on the moon, and I did it. I mean, I met him.
Did you?
Privately for 15 minutes, which was astounding. He was the most reclusive man in the world during that time. After this is in 1969 when they first set foot on the moon in July. But so people were just hounding him like crazy because he was
the most famous person.
He'll be famous 1,000 years from now, and a lot of super famous people right now will be, they were great back then, but nobody knows them now. They'll always know Neil Armstrong.
Yeah.
And that guy had ice in his veins. What he did to preserve his crew, Buzz Aldrin and then Mike Collins, who was circling to bring them back to Earth. that whole thing just still amazes me. That's why I built the Moonrise Hotel and created the world's largest man-made rotating moon on top out of respect for what they accomplished.
Yeah.
And I have a patch taken to the moon the very first time when they set foot on the moon. That's on display in the lobby of the Moonrise Hotel, along with all 12 moonwalkers and their autographs and pictures.
Yeah.
And also, it's pretty amazing what
It's
they
cool to
did.
know
That's
the
a whole
story
different
behind
show,
that.
but it's
you like space, yeah. You like space, and
cool.
it's cool to know the story behind that. And now every time I drive by there or go up to the Moonrise, I'm gonna think of the story that you just told us today. So, guys, we need to be more like Joe. I mean, this guy's done everything on his bucket list. He's met all the people he's wanted to meet. So we want to thank you for being such a staple in the Delmar community and more just in St. Louis in general. Your impact goes beyond what you even think of, and I'm sure if you step back sometimes and look at what you've built, you can really appreciate the hard work that it took to do that. So I really thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and other than that, if you want to tell anybody where they can find you or how they can support the Delmar Loop, like websites or anything like that, or just leave us off with the closing message.
Sure. I mean, BlueberryHill.com has a lot, including photographs of not just Blueberry Hill, but other parts of the loop, in case they want to find out more about Blueberry Hill and my background and loop pictures and all. VisitTheLoop.com is the Loop's website. There are so many good new businesses that have opened even during COVID.
Yeah.
That I think if people haven't been in the Delmar Loop for a couple of years, it's time to come back. And you can walk with your kids or your families or your date up and down the loop to read the Walk of Fame stars with the informative plaques. Mm-hmm. Unlike Hollywood, this one's better. And
love that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just awesome. And what we'll do is we'll put together a Delmar Loop bucket list to post along with the episode. So we'll work together with you guys and come up with some cool spots for anybody to go out and just visit, like a list of 10 things to check off when they're out there, and make it kind of a fun event for everybody and get people going outside and supporting more. And let's shout out live music. I'm ready for it.
Yes,
I'm ready for
live
it.
music is back, and darts are back too. So
Okay.
if people want to get a team together to play darts on the weekly Blueberry Hill League, but the 50th anniversary of the North America's largest and oldest pub-sponsored dart tournament is coming up this September.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's another plus for St. Louis. We do have at Blueberry Hill the longest running dart tournament in North America.
Wow.
Not just Missouri, not just the United States, but even Canada.
Hey, yes, go St. Louis. So guys, support the tournament, support St. Louis in general, but more or less support the Delmar Loop. You guys are doing amazing work, and I'm going to go look on the website and find some live music shows to go to once the weather's starting to get better, so that's when I start getting in that live music mood. So,
Yep.
Joe, thank you again for coming on, and anything we can do to support you in the future, just definitely let us know when it comes to pushing out some events that you guys got going. So,
Well, thanks.
Right.
ThePageant.com has all the concerts listed, too, for
Yeah.
The Pageant, Delmar Hall, and Blueberry Hill. That's a good one to go to for live music people.
Cool. Well, we'll post all the links for you guys. And if you can, share what you guys thought about the episode. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much.
All right. In this episode, we talked to Joe Edwards about everything from live music, the Delmar Loop, and just the culture of St. Louis in general. As always, this podcast is recorded and distributed out of Half Coast Studios here in St. Louis, the #1 podcast studio in the world, but more importantly in St. Louis as well. So if you guys have a podcast or want to start a podcast, definitely hit them guys up at Half Coast Studios.